Hello and welcome back to another episode of my weekly market overview. It's the 10th of May. Probably should have checked that before I started. It's the 10th of May 2026. Let's get straight into it. First and foremost, as I typically like to just take a quick scan of some of the broader markets out there, see what's interesting and see what's happening. Now, Bitcoin is where I typically like to start. This is trending to the upside. I had it in this range for the longest time, but it has been putting in consistent higher highs and higher lows. For probably over a month now. Since around the end of March, early April, it's been putting consistent high highs and high lows. So for those of you out there that are trading Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as they closely align to the price of Bitcoin, then you're probably getting some good trades in at the moment. Unfortunately, I am sitting out of these assets at the minute because my broker doesn't allow it. But yeah, really nice price action on Bitcoin. DXY is always on my radar. I like to keep a track of this one because I still love trading Forex pairs. It's one of my favorite asset classes. I love the way Forex moves, but unfortunately, I've been struggling to put together trades recently. The DXY at the minute has been putting in some lower lows and lower highs. So it looks like we're getting some kind of price action. If I flip over to my Forex template, we can clearly see that the DXY is making lower lows and lower highs. But the problem was I was struggling to find another currency that was putting in opposing price action, i.e. high highs and higher lows that were clean. Now, if we look at the euro, it just kind of looks like a mess. If we look at the DXY, it's not brilliant, but it is trending to the downside. It is making lower lows and lower highs. It looks like it's in the process of putting in a new lower low at the minute. The euro looked kind of sideways and messy. The pound was a little bit better, but still not convincing me, especially here with this price action that we had. It was just a choppy mess. If we look at the Australian dollar, this was probably the better one. It put in this big push to the upside, pulled back and then continued, but unfortunately, I was just unable to put a trade together. We're in the Forex market. This is the price action that we've got in a minute. We work with what we've got and we'll wait for the DXY to start putting in a more decent trend and hopefully some of the other currencies putting in opposing trends and we can pick off some nice trades going forward. Next, we need to have a very quick mention around gold. There's not a lot to be said about this one. It's flat as a pancake. It doesn't know what to do with itself. It hasn't put in a higher high or a higher low, lower low or lower high, any kind of clean price action that my brain recognizes for some time now. So this one gets the minimal attention from me at the minute until we get a huge breakout to the upside or a huge breakout to the downside and some consistent clean price action. Gold is completely off my radar. Brent Crude must get a mention because of what's going on in the world at the minute with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and all of the crazy stuff going on with Trump. This asset is more or less sideways for me. It's stuck in this broad, huge, wide range. If I look at it from the 4-hour perspective, certainly it's putting this high low here, high here, and then prices not broken out of it. It's made 3 attempts to the upside to break out here, here, and here, but it hasn't really made new highs, which is obviously a good thing because we don't want our petrol prices going up. But it is, for me, certainly not a tradable asset because it's not putting in clean price action. Is this the beginning of a downtrend? I'm not entirely sure, but we'll keep an eye on Brent Crude. And if we get clean price action, lower lows and lower highs, and we might look to pick off some trades going forwards. But at the moment, I'm leaving this one alone. The S&P 500 next. Now, this is an asset I keep a reasonably close eye on because in recent months, I've put in a lot of effort into switching trading from commodities and Forex into the US stock market. So the S&P 500 is always something that I'm watching closely. Now at the minute, we've got it in this huge push to the upside. It did around the end of April consolidate a little bit and pull back to the 20 moving average. And then it just continued parabolically to the upside. A little bit later in the video, we'll take a closer look at how some of the individual sectors are behaving within the S&P 500, but for the moment I just wanted to point out that this is massively to the upside, putting in all-time highs. NVidia always gets a special mention because it is the biggest stock in the US stock market. It's a huge asset. It was stuck in this massive range, which I was critical of for some time, but it has put in this massive higher high and all-time high. It pulled back and has put in another all-time high literally on Friday, just gone. We've got earnings due, I think, this Wednesday coming up. So Yeah, interesting to see how this price action will influence the wider stock market, specifically the tech sector and obviously the wider market as well. NVIDIA does play a big role in leading the rest of the US stock market, so we'll be watching this one closely over the next few days. For the next part of this video, I just want to talk about the trades that I took last week that concluded, and also any trades, if any, that I'm looking at for this week going forwards. Now, in last week's video on Sunday, I was in 3 positions which hadn't concluded yet. All 3 of them were in profit, thankfully, and all 3 of them concluded this week in profit. I put in 2 trades in Tesla. The first one last week was a loss. It literally tapped my entry line and then it hit stop loss a few hours later. And then I went in for a second position, which concluded at 2 hours in profit around Thursday open, which was a really nice trade. Next, we have Micron Technology. Now, this trade is kind of difficult to look at. It won. I achieved 2 hours on this trade, but look at how it parabolically moved after hitting my TP. It went on for about 8 or 9 hours, which is a little bit annoying because at the minute I'm not trailing stop losses. I'm just looking for those wins. So I'm setting hard TPs at 2 hours. Looks like I might be potentially thinking about switching back to trading stop losses in the near future, but this was another fantastic trade. We had this consolidation towards a 20 moving average, and then we had a big push to the upside. This stock was outperforming the S&P 500 for the whole entirety of the trade, which is always something that I like to see, is that relative strength. Really nice trade, really happy with this one. Again, 2 hours achieved at 0.75% risk. AMD next. Now, this is another one that hit TP more or less in one candle on Wednesday US Open. I'm not 100% sure. I probably should have checked before I recorded the video. I wonder if this was earnings. This was a huge candle. Again, we had this sort of consolidation that happened around the end of April, and then I got a nice tight entry and we achieved 2 hours. Again, another one where I wish I was trailing a stop loss because we'd probably be up around 4 hours by now, but it's okay. We're sticking with the hard TPs for the moment until we can justify a rule change. Also, it's worth highlighting that this stock has been outperforming the S&P 500 consistently since around the end of March. So that's really nice to see that strong relative strength. These are the stocks that I really want to be trading. Now, there are several stocks that I have my eye on for this week, but I'll just give Cisco a specific mention because this is the only one that I put a buy stop order in on Friday. I'm not sure if I want to keep this buy stop order just because, well, let's break this trade down. So it's putting in really nice high highs and high lows. The price action is nice and clean, which is what I like to see. But where I put in a stop order is already above the previous higher high. So the risk to reward is not brilliant on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till Monday market open and to see if this trade has triggered. If it has, then I'm going to really aggressively bring the stop loss up to break even because I think there is a consolidation that could happen and I don't want to get caught in that drawdown. So I'm going to really strongly manage this one up to break even as quickly as possible. If this trade doesn't trigger by Monday afternoon, then I'll probably cancel this order because honestly, I don't like the look of it. If you look at this area here, entering a trade here where it hasn't broken the high, this is a good risk to reward. This is a good risk to reward, and so is this one right here. But here, this trade looks really different, and I like the ones that look like this and like this and like this. This is not really my cup of tea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how it plays out in the first hour or two of trading of Monday open, and then we'll take it from there. Next, I would like to take a quick look at each sector to see how they're behaving. Now, it probably won't take that long because at the minute, there's only one sector that's absolutely killing it. And surprise, surprise, it's the tech sector. XLK, if we look at this, is just parabolic. It's outperforming the overall S&P 500 as well, which is what we like to see. And that's why I'm concentrating a lot of time and effort in scanning for stocks within the tech sector to try and pick those market leaders. Let's take a look at some of those next. So this list is pretty big. At the moment, I think I've identified in the region of about 20 or 25 stocks within the tech sector that sit within the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100 that are outperforming or doing or structurally look fantastic. So I've got the pick of the bunch here. I'm going to scan through them really quickly. I'm not going to go through them individually with any level of detail, just a quick scan of each one because otherwise the video will be too long. But let's just starting with Apple and clearly see it's made this huge parabolic move to the upside. Another one is Micron Technology. We took a trade in this last week. Again, another one that's massively to the upside. AMD, another trade we took last week. Oracle is another one which has had this basing action here. We had this consolidation period and now it's put in this significant higher high, higher low, and now big push to the upside. This is one that I'll be watching for a pullback and potential continuations. Intel, I'm sure I mentioned this one in last week's video, parabolic move to the upside. Cisco, we already talked about, we've got a potential position in this one. Lam Research Corporation is another one that's moving to the upside. Texas Instruments is another one that I like the look of. It's gliding along the 20 moving average at the minute, and if we get a big push to the upside, I might put in a long position of the break of these highs. Analog Devices is another one that's been riding the 20 moving average really nicely and has put in a new high at the minute. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I don't want to break these down individually one by one because, as I said, the video will just be too long, but the tech sector is moving ridiculously. I really like this one, by the way. Monolithic Power Systems is another one that's riding the 20 moving average. We get a big push to the upside like we saw here. This is another one that we could look for potential buys for a breakout to the upside and new high highs. The list just goes on and on, really. There's too many to break down individually. So I'll be doing a closer look of each one of these. When market opens on Monday, I'll be looking to see if any of these are ones that I can participate in. Some of them I've already mentioned, but there's too many to mention individually. Moving on to the rest of the US stock market, sector by sector. If we look at the communication sector, this is for the most part underperforming against the rest of the S&P 500, specifically the tech sector. It's not really doing anything interesting. There are a couple of stocks within here that are moving nicely. Probably Google being the main one. Yeah, here it is. It's done a big parabolic push to the upside. But for the most part, the communication sector is not moving brilliantly. So it's a sector that there's no point in being in. I want to be where the market leaders are. Next, we look at consumer discretionary. Now, obviously, we picked off a couple of trades within this with Tesla specifically, but until this is outperforming the wider S&P 500, I want to keep away from this one. So at the moment, it's not performing brilliantly. It is looking like it's making a big push to the upside. If we start seeing the market leaders in this particular sector moving strongly, we may partake with potential more trades, specifically Tesla. But at the moment, I'm going to keep away from this sector as well. Consumer staples, I have no plans in trading this sector at all. This is a sector which is good to come to when there's bad times, when the rest of the stock market is tanking. Consumer staples is usually where you want to pick off some nice trades with nice safe stocks, but at the minute this is reasonably flat and boring price action, slow moving stocks, not somewhere I want to put my money at the minute. Now, this is the finance sector. This is one that looked like it was going to outperform the wider US stock market for some time. It even looked quite strong on this relative strength indicator, but unfortunately it's fizzled out since. So I was looking forward to picking off some nice trades within the finance sector and find some nice stocks, but it's fizzled out. We'll have to leave this one alone until it starts putting in that strong price action. We'll just leave this one alone because at the minute it's fairly flat. Healthcare sector is another one. I think I mentioned it last week. Like, this is probably a good candidate for shorts, if anything, because it's putting in this push to the downside and it's strongly underperforming against the wider US stock market. Healthcare sector, another one that's very, very much underperforming. Energy sector, this is one that put a big push to the upside when the Iran war broke out and we had this huge momentum here. We picked off a handful of trades within this, I think with BP and ConocoPhillips were a couple that come to mind. Since then, it has fizzled out a little bit. We got one last push, but it has fizzled out again. So energy sector will be leaving alone as well. Last but not least, the industrial sector. Again, this benefited from the Iran war. It had a nice period of a big push to the upside, and since then it has more or less fizzled out. It's certainly not outperforming the general S&P 500. So again, another sector to leave alone. That's it for this week. So we had 3 nice trades conclude this week just gone. 0.75% risk per trade. So we achieved in the region of 4.5% added to the account, which is a fantastic result. I'll take that. I need to think about potentially reintroducing trailing stop losses, because although we achieved 4.5%, I think that number would be a lot bigger if we were trailing stop losses on those 3 specific trades. So that's something I need to think about. I need to potentially reintroduce carefully over the next week or 2. I'll think about it as we go. I think my biggest takeaway from this video is that I need to concentrate on the tech sector. All other sectors are flat or underperforming. Tech sector is where all the action is, and we have dozens of stocks to pick from. So just need to see how NVIDIA behaves this week, because it is the market leader. NVIDIA will generally cause the market to go up and down, and it has got an earnings report due, I believe, on Wednesday this week. So that might influence another big push to the upside or an overall pullback. We'll have to wait and see. I'm happy either way. If I'm in a trade, I want a big push to the upside. And if I'm not in any trades, and I'm waiting for a pullback so I can look for re-entries. So both outcomes serve me well. We'll just wait and see what happens with NVIDIA this week and the wider stock market. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.